All right, folks, I'm getting everything set up. We just got the latest 1 o'clock numbers in, and Ida is doing its thing just like we've anticipated the whole time. Today is when it all comes together for Ida, and you can see over the last few hours, really starting to take on that classic look of a powerful hurricane. It's starting to really wrap around itself, and there it is. There's the eye forming, and now it's got a nice solid eye. It's got a very symmetrical look to it, and it's starting to get that classic circular saw, that buzzsaw type of look to it as it gains in power. You can really see it here on the 3D imagery. It shows up there very, very well. See if I can't make it zoom in. So get myself, there we go. This is such high resolution imagery. You can really capture it very well. Look at that eye forming right there. That is a powerful hurricane with strong winds now wrapping all the way around it. Of course, we are under hurricane warnings for Louisiana. Our area is under tropical storm warnings: Mobile County, Baldwin County, Washington County, Green, Georgia, and Jackson County in Mississippi, all under tropical storm warnings. Here's the latest numbers. Here it is, 100 mile per hour. It was 85 for the last update, so it jumped 15 miles per hour in one update. That's a lot. That means this thing is just on fire at the moment, and unfortunately, this is exactly what we expected to happen with this storm. The conditions out there, they're absolutely perfect for a tropical system. Everything is working in its favor to grow stronger. See, speed is the same. Direction, importantly for us, is exactly the same. So that hasn't changed. It is on a northwest trajectory, not a northerly. So now it's almost due south. If I drew a line from about Navarre Beach, it's almost due south of that area right now. So, and it's working its way, obviously, to the west. All right, so here's the latest track, and we'll get another updated track at 4 o'clock this afternoon. But the anticipation right now is that it'll be a Category 4. I know if I zoom in here for a second, it'll look like you see 130 here, 130 here, but this is already kind of making landfall. I mean, it could easily be above that here before it makes landfall. And just kind of looking at what we're dealing with right now, the only limitation for this storm is how much time it spends over water. So a lot of it's going to really depend on exactly when it makes that landfall. If even a few hours later, we'll be in a stronger storm. So this is going to be obviously, it's a terrible storm. It's going to do a lot of damage. This part of Louisiana is going to suffer severe damage. Last year, it was western Louisiana with Laura that got the most damage. Now, this one's going to do significant damage to eastern Louisiana. New Orleans is going to be right there in that right-hand side of the eye wall. The center, it's going to go right over Baton Rouge, it looks like, or somewhere very close by. I know, folks, always when you check in on these things, you want to see if that forecast cone has changed. Is it wobbling around? No, it's really not. It's right on track. Now, that doesn't mean it can't, and it will do a few little wobbles here and there. But I would seriously wouldn't think that it's going to be much outside this cone if there is a wobble. So, but there is a big difference, whether it would come up the east side of this or the west side or straight down the center for what we get. Obviously, the farther east it goes in this cone, the more impacts that we get around here. But I still don't see any way that we would get a direct impact, and I'll explain that here in a second. There's not going to be that big of a change. And you can really see it by the modeling here. They're all focused in on that same area, Grand Isle, Louisiana, Houma, Louisiana, going up through about Baton Rouge. And you can see how tight, and this hasn't changed the last couple of days. It's been very well on it. And the reason why there's been so much considerable consensus with this forecast and where it's going, it's a lot different than what we saw with Fred. Remember Fred, the forecast kind of was bouncing back and forth. That was because the storm was very weak. It kind of reformed a couple times. We remember from Sally last year. That one changed a lot too. But remember, it was going 2 miles an hour. So, that means you don't, if something's not moving like that, that means there's nothing really moving it around. There's not much steering in there. This is moving at 16 miles per hour. There's a big ridge of high pressure up here. That is the steering feature. And think of this as a mountain, just a mountain. And this has to go around the mountain. And that's exactly what the forecast is for, is to go around like this. It cannot go over the mountain. It has to go around the mountain. So It's a very definite steering current that we have out there for it. And since it's today and then tomorrow, it's making landfall tomorrow afternoon, there's not enough time for it to make a significant change. So it's going to be moving too quickly for that. So here it goes. As it crosses this, this is the unfortunate part. The water is like rocket fuel out there. It's a very warm, mid to upper 80s, and it gets even warmer as you head up towards the toe there of Louisiana. This thing is going to be intensifying right up until landfall, right there. So like I said, the only limiting factor is how much time does it have over the water. The more time it has, the stronger it will grow. It will not be weakening as it comes on in. Here's the wind shear. And it's got it's got like an alleyway here. There's some wind shear here over the eastern Gulf. There's a little bit of wind shear down here in the southwestern Gulf. But right where it's going through, no wind shear. So like I said, perfect conditions for a tropical system. Water is nuclear hot. We have no wind shear to speak of over it. Wind shear is the winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere that can kind of cut the storm off at the top. None of that. So it has everything it needs to continue to grow and intensify. 100 mile per hour right now, 100 miles per hour. It's a Cat 2 now. So it jumped 15 miles an hour from earlier this morning. And there it is, right through there. And you can start to see some of these rain bands. Now, we've had some showers around this morning. We'll have a few more around as the day goes along, but mostly just light rain for us today. The rain bands from the system come in tomorrow. And we'll look at that here. This is the high resolution modeling. That's 5 o'clock. Really wrapped around itself right there. We'll head to this evening. This is midnight. And you can see some bands here over in Louisiana. And maybe the possibility of a few outer bands overnight for us that kind of break off and break away. But the real bands won't come in until tomorrow morning. And then we'll start seeing some of these outer bands. Here we are at 6 a.m. You can see the center there. All this moisture and rain being wrapped around. And then you continue to look at this thing as it makes landfall sometime tomorrow afternoon. Some of the difference here with the models is that, some of the models have it coming in around lunchtime, like this one, like around 1. Some of it have coming in mid-afternoon, 3 or 4. Some have it coming in around 7 or 8. So that's really the one thing we're keeping an eye on with this. And that will be important in how strong this storm is. Once again, the longer it stays over water, each hour it stays over the water, it'll likely be a stronger storm. So there it is on this model. This is our high resolution model making landfall in right around Houma, Louisiana. And there's the heavy rain bands going through our area at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Very heavy rain. So even though we expect this there to come in well to the west of us, we will see significant impacts. Those are going to be very heavy rain bands moving on through. Here's midnight or close to midnight there, and you can see now it's moved inland. That doesn't mean the storm just peters out and it's over, because we continue to be on this right-hand side, and all these rain bands keep getting dragged in off the Gulf of Mexico right over our area. So we'll have heavy rain overnight, Sunday night on into Monday morning, and then even going into through the day Monday. I'll show you another model. That high-resolution model doesn't go very long, and it only goes until 1 a.m. Monday, as far out as it goes. And you can see the rain totals, even just till then, 4, 5, 6 inches of rain all across the Gulf Coast. Now, once again, that only goes to 1 a.m. Monday. I expect a lot of rain on Monday. We might double these numbers as we go into Monday. So it's going to be an intense amount of rain here for us. Let me go ahead and give you this is the GFS, or the American model. This makes landfall at around 3 on Sunday. So the other one was 1 o'clock. This one is 3, and look at the heavy rain bands. So same deal with this one. It shows heavy rain bands starting in the morning. Midday it picks up, 3 o'clock here. We have heavy rain bands. And once again, you can see all these storms, you can see how far out the rain will go on the right-hand side, and you look at the left. These things are always like that. Worst weather is always on the right-hand side, and that's where we're going to be the whole time. So now it moves inland around midnight. You see still seeing heavy rain around here. And then we go to lunchtime on Monday and look at the flow into the Mississippi Gulf Coast, into our area, heavy amounts of moisture, because now it's curving back this way, keeping us on that right-hand side the whole time. The whole time we stay on that right-hand side, it's dragging up that moisture from the Gulf. The rain bands are going through. So torrential rain on Sunday, then torrential rain again on Monday as we deal with that. And watch what this is going to mean for our rainfall totals. This is run off that. When I run the rainfall modeling, whatever model I just showed you is the one I'm running. So I showed you the one earlier from the high resolution. This is the one from the GFS, and this is showing a widespread 6 inches or so of rain. That's kind of like the average it will probably get, 5 or 6 inches. But we could easily see spots getting much more than that depending on exactly how the rain band's set up. So we could be talking about a pretty big amount of rain here. So rain is going to be our biggest problem. So let's talk about our local impacts. This is for us here on the Central Gulf Coast. All these impacts are much higher over in Mississippi and then over into Louisiana, okay? Our biggest impact is going to be flooding. You see the red bar there up in the high category. Once again, you get 6, 7, 8 inches of rain, you get it fairly quickly. That could cause flooding, and that's what we expect to see. You can see tornadoes. It's a smaller risk, but it's a risk that will be there because we have a landfalling tropical system. On the right-hand side, you get tornadoes sometimes. And then you see the surge, and pretty decent possibilities of some damage from this as well because we're looking at 3 to 5 feet. We're going to be on the right-hand side of that storm the whole time. Our winds are going to be out of the south the whole time, even though you're like, well, it's tropical storm force here. Yeah, but it's going to stay that way for a long time. So it really pushes the water in. We're going to see 3 to 5 foot of storm surge rise. Western end of Dauphin Island, the causeway, to Dauphin Island, the causeway in the middle of the bay, Fort Morgan Peninsula, all going to see some water level rises, some significant water level rises with that surge. And the last thing is the wind. And like I said, don't sleep on the wind because it may only be tropical storm strength, but it's likely we'll be seeing hours and hours and hours of those sort of winds. So, the tree or the big limb that doesn't notice, a little bit of tropical storm force winds for a couple of hours may crack when it has 12, 15, 16 hours of tropical force winds hitting it. So we'll likely see some big limbs and even some trees at times going down, especially if we get any tornadoes out there with it. So a lot of impact possibilities. Once again, let me put up that 3D satellite. Really just impressive stuff here. It's really starting to take on that classic look of a powerful hurricane developing its eye right now. Just in the last couple of hours, that eye sprung up. So right through there. And it's taking on that classic circular buzzsaw type of shape that we see with the most powerful hurricanes, and it's just rapidly intensifying. Like I said, there's extremely warm water here. There's no hostile winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere to knock it back. It has got a runway here. It's a semi rolling downhill with no brakes, and it's going to be a very, very powerful storm. Category 4 is what's forecast now. I mean, it's possible it could get up to 5. There's that real possibility. That the only thing that will limit it, I'll mention this again, is how much time it has over the water. It's still moving at 16 miles per hour. And we do anticipate that it will slow down a bit as it approaches southeast Louisiana. So that could mean that could help it strengthen even a little bit more. The longer it's over that warm water, the more time it has to actually gain its strength. I'm just kind of going over this stuff real quick. Once again, I mentioned it earlier, but since I know folks kind of come in and out of these. Hurricane warnings are for Louisiana. We have tropical storm warnings in our Mississippi Gulf Coast areas and over into Mobile and Baldwin County. Whoops, I just hit the wrong button here. The latest numbers here just popped it up to a Category 2 storm from at 85 mile per hour winds earlier. Now it has 100 mile per hour winds with Ida. So it went from a 1 to a 2. Big jump here this afternoon, but one that was expected. It is really getting itself organized and getting itself together. And like I said, it has all the ability to become a monster of a storm. And once again, there is no shift so far to this forecast cone. And I wouldn't anticipate a big one. Like the conditions here the steering conditions are very prominent. It's moving fairly quickly. Once you get a big storm moving at a trajectory, it tends to like to stay going that way. And it's exactly what we expect. So all the models bring it into the southeast Louisiana area and then eventually curve it back around. And we'll be on the right. And that puts us on the right-hand side for a really long time. I mean, if it was going straight northwest, we get a few outer bands and then they would move on. but it's curving back around like this. That means the outer bands keep going through our area over and over and over again. So it's good that for us that we're not seeing the center of the circulation, but we are still going to get significant effects out of this because we'll be in those bands for so long. It's going to mean a lot of heavy rain, torrential rain, flooding, certainly street flooding. I mean, that's going to be an issue across the area. So it's going to be a rough go of it. Obviously, though, for folks, I mean, this is going to be devastating around Houma, Louisiana, maybe even parts of New Orleans. It's going to be, again, the right-hand side of that eye wall. And I know we call it making landfall down here, but most of us know that really isn't land. I mean, that's bayou and bays and it's not going to weaken a whole lot likely until it's past New Orleans. So it's going to remain pretty strong all the way through New Orleans and up into Baton Rouge before then starting to weaken as it heads up the Mississippi River there. So it's an ugly one. And so hopefully you've gotten things ready. You have a few hours here in and around our area to do that. But I would suggest don't leave anything outside that you don't want flying around. Trampoline, please turn the trampolines over, secure them. Okay, because they always end up on somebody's shed or car. Okay, kid toys, umbrellas that are out there with your little set outside, chairs, some of the chairs that you might have outside, anything like that that could fly around. Bring it in or put it in the garage. Put it somewhere secure so it doesn't fly around, and just buckle down and wait. That's all we can do. Once again, I'm meteorologist Matt Barentine. Thank you so much for joining here on our Facebook Live. I'm going to have a live cut-in at the halftime of this football game that's going on Fox 10 right now. So I will catch you then, and then we'll be doing some more updates later on this afternoon. There will be another big update at 4 o'clock with the new numbers. Have a good one.